right, guys. Welcome back to Line Impact. My name is Michael Lidu. I got my right-hand man over there, Estevan Hernandez.
How y'all doing?
Today, we've got a special guest with us today.
Yes.
Brother Prater, preacher, mentor.
Yes.
He's done a lot of great things to me, and today we're going to discuss a variety of different things. I'm super excited, man. Brother Prater, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. My honor to be here.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence, man. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot of things going on, busy schedule, and I'm just happy that you can make it here today with us, so I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it. I couldn't miss it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Jumping into the first topic, I guess. We want to talk about, for the people who are going through these tough times, relating to COVID, a lot of jobs have been taken off the market and stuff like that. And, it's affecting people's peace of mind, them losing their businesses, not being able to travel, some for kids and even going to school, How do you think that's psychologically affecting them, in this time?
I can say it can really do something mentally to you if you allow it to. But one of the things I realized, when things are outside of your control, then you can't blame yourself. And once you remove that blame from yourself out the way, then you look at and see, does God have a purpose in this? In spite of what happens, does God has a purpose in this? And how can God have a purpose in this? We're looking at it as an opportunity for us to do a self-evaluation. Right now, true enough, there are some people that are, if you want to say, stuck at home. They have been so used to traveling, going out on the road, hanging out with friends. But a lot of time it reveals to us that we've been neglecting ourselves or our family. So looking at this is for the adults. Look at this as an opportunity of, let's get back to the basics and take inventory of, okay, let me find out in the process of me being at home or in-home shelter or whatever, let me look at what can I do for me to be able to even just have this time to rest physically, rest mentally and emotionally, but also even be able to, if you want to say rest spiritually. When I say rest, that doesn't mean that it's not doing nothing, but doing something.
Praying.
Being able to just start praying more, reading the Bible more. And also for us to be able to look at, God, in the process of this, you revealing to me, what can I do in this process of, I like to call it study hall. This is an opportunity where you have to, you can't avoid you. And so right now, we can't control what's going on. We can't control even, especially if you on a job and right now you laid off or whatever like that. True enough, it can affect you financially too. But also on the same token, especially when it's affecting you financially, this is a time where, hey, you know what? You may have to let pride aside and say, you know what? I have to reach out to my family and say, you know what? I need your help. And sometimes this part right here, it's a humbling experience because especially as a guy, we don't want to ask for help.
Absolutely.
Of course,
especially
independence.
Especially if you've been the provider for your family. Now
that just stops.
You have to ask help for your family.
Right, you got to humble yourself.
So, just looking at that as an adult, but also now as, if you want to say kids or young adults,
right?
Looking at, you may be isolated from your friends right now, but just realize this is not permanent. This is just temporary. And I think if we can remove that stigma of, I don't see no end. Well, number one, there will be an end, but in the process of us waiting for this to end, looking at what can we do to refine ourselves, because this is a great opportunity, even though it may seem scary, but I've always been a person that always look at the good in whatever situation. Right. My dad said when I was a kid, there's always some good out of every situation, but it's our responsibility to find that good in the midst of whatever situation. So in the midst of this situation where you may not be having to talk to your friends, ever be with your friends, whatever like that, right now you may not be able to physically see them, but this will even help you to be able to evaluate if these are your true friends or not, where you can be able to not just see them physically, but also being able to get with them on Google Duo or something like that. In other words, it leads up to a conversation, another conversation for us to be able to, as younger people, for us to be able to, just have something else to talk about where, what have you been doing? Well, I haven't been doing anything. Okay, well, you know what? Let me tell you what I did. And this may even develop some type of mentorship.
Right.
Even within your peers. So that's just the way I see it.
So now as far as people using their creative bone, I've seen a lot of businesses now where things aren't functioning like they once were. And I see a lot of business, especially like mom and pop shops, they're forced to be creative, right?
Right.
How important is it, or what are some things that people can do at home who may not necessarily have a business, but now something's been dropped in their lap where it's like all of a sudden things aren't flowing as they once were? How should individuals now find that creative bone? And is this an opportunity for people to find that creative bone? You know what I mean?
Yes. Right now, this is making us having the idea of being touchless.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So now, when I used to have people to come to my store as a consumer, now this is making me get into online services.
Absolutely.
So, and not only online services, you think about it. Right now, I say a year ago, would anybody have ever thought a hobby such as sewing would become so profitable?
No.
Right now, people have the idea of, well, you know what, I used to always sew just as a hobby, but now if I can make custom masks, now I can have my hobby, which used to be my plan B, I can make that become my plan A.
Yeah.
All right.
So like I said, just being innovative. So many times we've been so used to relying upon and being comfortable with our jobs, being comfortable with relying upon other people to speak up for us. But what I found out that sometimes adversity creates that inner beast within you for you to, and that hunger for you to just go forth and say, you know what, I got to do something.
Right.
And that would actually even create an avenue for you to be able to see a potential purpose or one of your purposes in your life. Adversity.
Oh man, that's awesome. I really like the fact that, I remember a few weeks ago, this time last year, I couldn't imagine that you would have to wear a mask everywhere you went.
Oh man.
And I remember being going to go get a haircut, and I sat there and I'm looking at my barber like, you want me to take the mask off now? And he was like, no, just leave it on until I get to your beard.
Right.
And it's just amazing how something could just come to us and it forces everyone to change their lifestyle. It forces everyone to kind of comply. And I see now for the first time that if we don't work as a unit, regardless of your race, your gender, whatever you got going on, we can't stop the spread of COVID-19.
Right.
I can't say, well, I don't care about those people over there in that neck of the woods because it's just whatever. You have to care, because if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, it still gets to touch you.
Yeah. And also what I'm seeing is this is really opening up our eyes in America.
Right.
When we really think about it, a lot of, if you want to see third world countries, they've been doing this for years.
Right.
Yeah, China's definitely always wore masks and stuff like that.
They've been doing it. It's been a part of their custom.
That's right.
But this is new to us.
Absolutely.
And this is making us be aware of, you know what? This is a global situation, but also on the same token, and whatever I'm going to learn in this situation, make it affect globally.
Wow.
So like I said, mask. Hey, I might be able to sell the mask to my neighbor across the street, or I might be able to sell it to somebody online overseas.
Across the world.
Yeah.
Wow,
So like I said, being able to have this to get the scales off of our eyes and look further than what we see in front of our hand.
That's crazy. Now let's talk about decisions. I look at the decisions that we make today and the habits that you adopt are planting seeds for your tomorrow, right? And I think there's a lot of people who they just feel like, well, whatever I do today is minuscule. It's just, it's whatever. It doesn't really matter. I just, had a slice of pizza, or I just had a, this or whatever. And then come tomorrow, you're looking at your stomach like, I don't like the way my stomach looks. Well, you did that to your stomach yesterday, not today. That didn't start today.
Yeah, I've definitely done that way too many times.
Absolutely. Right. So how important are the decisions we make today how does that set the tone for our tomorrow, especially when it comes to choosing a partner, right? Mm-hmm. How important is that that partner that you're about to be with, that you're with? How important is that selection for a man and a woman?
Mm-hmm. I'll say this in two parts. Number one, our decisions do affect, or whatever decision that we make today, it will affect us tomorrow, but also it not only affects you, but it affects those that you love and those that love you. Mm-hmm. Right now, like if I look in the mirror, I just see myself as an individual.
Right, of course.
But on the other hand, from a different lens, my son sees me as his father. My mom, my father see me as their son.
Right.
So if I make a decision of, let's say, involving myself with a young lady who may not be the best choice I should be making.
Right.
Of course.
Even though she may, let's be honest, even though I may think, oh man, we can get married and shit, I can sex her down. Okay, that's fine and dandy. That's fine and dandy. But even though she may be a great sex partner, she may be a horrible stepmother.
Oh man.
She may be a horrible daughter-in-law.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I have to look beyond my feelings or emotion or my desire to look and see if this person best qualified for everything that I have possession of, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And even pertaining to choosing a spouse or choosing a potential mate. One of the things I have to look at is, even with the habit, I'm throw this in first, even with, let's say, a habit, they always say, when you do things one time, it's a mistake. But when you do it twice or more, it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what we do, sometimes we make a continual habit of making wrong decisions.
Of course.
Because we don't learn from our, not mistakes, but learn from our choices.
Okay.
Unfortunately, many times we just look at the here and now.
Right.
There are so many people right now who may have had a tattoo, or gotten a tattoo 40 years ago.
Oh man.
But 40 years later, they look in the mirror and they hate themselves because of the choice or the decision that they made by getting a particular tattoo, based on how they felt. I always tell people, you don't go by your feelings, because feelings are fickle.
Right.
You don't go by feelings, you go by facts.
Right.
Okay, if I do this, what are the, not just the benefits, but what are the consequences? We don't think about consequences, and not only consequences for maybe one or two things, but long-term consequences and to this full extent. If I try to break into somebody's house, the only thing I can think about, well, you know what? They may have a dog. I might not be able to get anything. But on the other hand, I'm not thinking about what if they inside, they blow my brains out. We don't think about that. Yeah. So for us to be able to just look at whatever decision that we make, can we live with those choices? And then also now, getting ready to choose someone that you want to be with. As a man, what we really have to understand our value, our worth. If we don't understand our value, our worth, we don't understand the importance of the decision that we make in choosing a helpmate. Because we as men, we're supposed to be the leaders.
Right. Of course.
And as us being the leaders or the providers or the protectors, if we don't really know who we are, instead of us choosing a helpmate, we end up getting a hurt mate. We end up getting somebody or choosing somebody that will not best suit the purpose and plan that God has for us, not just for right now, but long term.
Okay, so now you mentioned something that I like, and I wanted to go back to two different things here. But the first one was about choosing the right helpmate. So now a lot of women might feel like, and I like to always say, well, before you make someone a leader, make sure they're qualified.
Right.
And I think a lot of women, they get into something with a guy and things kind of get shaky, or they kind of find out, well, he don't ever get off the video games, or he don't ever put down the smoke. And it's just like, well, you should have investigated. And I think it's unfair to now expect maybe him to change all of the sudden.
Because he's always been doing something.
You failed to investigate. I know sometimes people can hide certain things, but I think generally speaking, I kind of look at that and go, you gotta allow him to lead. But before you allow him to lead,
look at his habits.
Right. Make sure you know where he's going.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first question. The second one, because you said something earlier, and I was like, oh man, I gotta speak on this. I gotta say something about this. How important, and I feel like a lot of people overlook this here. It might just be me. How important is it to evaluate the family of the person in which you plan to be with?
Yes.
Because some people come from backgrounds.
Oh yeah.
Right. That they might have a tendency to yell a lot in the home.
Yeah.
And you might come from a different culture background. I mean, there's just so many things. How do you?
Yeah, you get to see their upbringing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
How can you bring these things together? Not necessarily judging and saying, oh, you're going to be just like your mama. I see your mama crazy. If her mama crazy, then she's going to be.
Yes, definitely.
I'm not necessarily saying that because people are different, but I do think that you were brought up a certain way. You were brought up, and that's, it's going to reflect on us. Even if it's just a tad bit, the way the way you speak is the way you were spoken to.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
How important is it to take a look at the family and through what lens should you be looking at that family? So our viewers aren't confused to just, I'm just going to judge the family crazy. You crazy. Nah, let me run.
Everybody crazy over there.
Right. So through what lens should you be looking at that? And also for the ladies, how do you make sure a man is qualified before you give him, that or give him that type of submission? Because a lot of ladies, they don't want to give that kind of submission. It's
Matter of fact, women hate the word submit.
They hate that word. They hate that. They don't even want to hear it.
Yeah.
I would say this: some young ladies, they love that word, but they submit to the wrong one.
Okay, true.
And then the ones that the right guy choose someone that don't submit. So it's bad.
Everybody's always
so now everybody's angry.
Yeah. Now I don't want to forget your question.
Okay.
Now the first one.
Yes.
The first one I do have to say pertaining to the selection.
Yes.
Okay. Now, ladies have to understand, if you are wanting to be married, if you want to be a wife to a husband, you have to understand the importance of that particular role before you choose to receive him into your life. Now, first and foremost, the woman must understand that you're not just choosing your husband, but you're choosing not just your provider, your protector, but your spiritual leader within the home.
Oh, wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
As a young lady, you have to understand that you're choosing the pastor of your home.
Wow.
Correct.
And if you choose someone that don't know God, who don't like God, who don't go to church, then you set the platform for that type of spirit within your home.
Correct.
In other words, there's going to be a conflict where if you are the young lady that go to church, that love God, that read, study her Bible, pray, and all those things, and you are, let's just say, you are God's spiritual daughter, but you want to be married, but you're choosing someone that, and let's forget about somebody saying, I'm saved, I go to church. Okay, no. Let's forget about what they say. Look at their lifestyle.
Okay.
Now, if you saying that, okay, you want to accept him as your husband, but he ain't saved or he ain't delivered, and even if he not accepting Jesus Christ as his personal savior, then he's not God's spiritual son. He's the devil's spiritual son. And if you choose him as your husband, then you allowing not just him to be your husband, but you choosing Satan as your spiritual father-in-law.
Oh, wow.
And we don't, a lot of them, they don't think about it like that. So now you have to understand, if you see someone in the very beginning that's not qualified for that position, you have to be mature enough to say that's not the one.
Right.
Unfortunately, some young ladies, I'll speak on the guys and the girls, but some young ladies, they feel like, well, he got potential, so let me see if I can work with him.
Yeah, I'm gonna fix him.
Women, I have to tell them, and no disrespect, but you can make a baby, but you can't make a man.
Right.
That is correct.
Yeah.
You cannot make a man. That's not your role. And unfortunately, many young ladies, they go into a relationship instead of making the relationship to try to make the guy a man when he's not qualified to even be a man.
Wow. I see.
Being a male and being a man are two different things. Mm-hmm. So for the young lady, you have to be mature enough to say, that's not the one.
Okay.
Now, what I was thinking about, I thought about the other day, just like if anybody have ever went to Krispy Kremes. Mm-hmm. Krispy Kremes, when they first came to North Texas, they were just bamming because for the first time, we were able to see the donuts being made, the process of the donuts being made. Right. And then when you see the process of it, all of a sudden when it come at the end, you can just get it and it's hot and it's melting right in your mouth.
Right.
I look at that process of Krispy Kreme just like if you want to have a spouse. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of times I can easily look at the dough, the dough that's on the conveyor belt. And I can say, I want that one right now. That means the way that it is right now, if I eat it, it can make me sick because it's uncooked. That's right. It's undone. Right. In other words, I'm not getting a donut, I'm getting dough. Yeah, right. But if I accept the one that's already ready, that's the one that God has for me. But I'm too busy looking at that one that I'm missing, this one right here. The one that is chosen for me is getting cold. Mm-hmm. And somebody end up picking the one that was actually meant for me. Right. And the one that I want to get, I want to take it off the conveyor belt, take it to the house and put it in the microwave. Right. And I don't get the same results as if I had let it go through the process. That's right. So the main thing right now for young ladies to understand, you cannot mix marriage or dating with ministry. Mm-hmm. So many young ladies, they say, well, let me help him. That's ministry. If you want that person to get help, you have to allow them to be out of your heart. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I always say with young ladies, and this is not putting down on you, young lady, but this is to encourage. A lot of young ladies, they make hard decisions with their heart. Mm-hmm. When you have to make hard decisions with your head.
It's your head, right.
You know, your heart, you look at your heart. Your heart is right inside of a cage called the rib cage. Mm-hmm. That's supposed to be protected. Mm-hmm. But your head is the one that's supposed to have all these senses to be able to protect your heart. Okay. You know, I can easily have my eyes closed and try to walk through that door, and what's going to happen, I'm going to get myself hurt. Mm-hmm. But my eyes is going to tell my head, hey man, you need to open that door, or you need to wait until the door is open. Done. Yeah. You know, wait till the door's open. All these things, we seeing the senses of us being able to just having our hearts protected. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, sometimes I love him. We go by our feelings. Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier about our feelings, the other thing we have to look at, a lot of times the devil will even try to make you choose the wrong one to try to help, to make you think that it's love, but it ain't love. A lot of times it's your emotions or it's lust.
Oh man.
That's good. So for us as, just spoke on the young lady, but for us as men, we have to be mature enough to understand that not everybody is equipped to handle the task of being our wife or being our girlfriend. I have to say that because this hit me a few minutes ago when I was at home. But when we end up not knowing our spiritual authority, we end up dealing with earthly consequences. Mm. And unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why pertaining to matters of the heart is so important for us to make sure, like right now, I can easily say, well, you know what? I want to be married. I want to make sure I choose someone that's going to love my son and do this and do that. But also I have to look at, even if she's qualified to help me in the purpose and plan for my life, am I qualified to give her what she needs for her life? In other words, there's a role that the man has to play. There's a role that the young lady has to play. But me have to be mature enough to say, you know what? She's cut for me. She's fit for me, but am I fit for her? Mm-hmm. And if we can be real with ourselves And even if the young lady wants to say, hey, you know what? I would love to be with you. I'll wait. I'll be patient. But us being mature enough to say, you know what? I may not be the right one for you, but you know what? I thank God for you. I like you, but I know this may be too much for you. Mm-hmm. Or vice versa for the young lady, say, you know what? I really think you're a nice guy and everything, but there's someone else better suited for you.
Man, yeah. Those things are real tough. I know when, especially dealing with women's emotions, I know it's really hard for them to get through all the emotion to get to, this is what's best for us. I know me and Hernandez were talking about relationships earlier.
Yeah, we were actually talking about relationships, and you actually brought up a good point. What type of mindset should the man have if he's even considering getting married or even starting a family, like having kids? You know, what type of mindset should you have for that?
Okay, first, I always tell the guy that most of the time we normally tell the young ladies, and this not excluding the young ladies, but I want to emphasize to the men. If there's someone that you're pursuing, if there's someone that you have your eyes on, the first thing you have to remember, do things godly. You always want to make sure that you have God's approval. You know, whenever you do things God's way, you not only get his approval, but you get his warranty package too. So for the man, we have to make sure that we keep sex out of the equation.
Ooh, that's definitely a tough one. That's definitely a tough one right there, guys. I know that's definitely a tough thing.
You know, I have to say that because what happened, whenever we involve sex into the equation when you're not married. Now, when you're married, hey, look here, have at it. You know,
you waited long enough.
Right. You give due benevolence, but even with that, make sure that you don't just look at, okay, well, she just, she's a good sex partner. Okay, it's more to it.
It gets deeper than that.
Yes. Yeah. So for us as the men, we have to leave sex at the equation because what happens, sex end up clouding our judgment. And a lot of times when we end up allowing sex into the equation, what happened, it end up, instead of us making spiritual decisions, we end up making emotional decisions, like I mentioned earlier. Now, with those emotional decisions, what happened with those emotional decisions, it make you step outside of your purpose and your character. Okay. It make you make decisions that are not long-term, but short-term gratification.
So you're just thinking for the moment.
Yes, short-term gratification, because whenever God has an assignment for you, there's always long-term. It's just like right now. Have you ever gotten ready to go somewhere and you get this eerie feeling that, man, something ain't right? I don't feel, I'm going to do it anyway. And as soon as you get over there or as soon as you do it, it was exactly the same way you felt before you physically made it there. Well, God was letting us know that, number one, we're more than just physical beings, we're spirit beings. And a lot of times before we physically, with our senses, get involved in something, sometimes God will forewarn us in the spiritual realm before we make it in the physical realm. And so with that, the same principle applies to choosing a spouse, because a lot of times God may be showing us the red flags within our spirit, but our emotions are telling us to go with those green flags.
So you tend to ignore all those.
Yes, tend to ignore, and it's just like, hey, somewhere down the road, you may end up losing your job. Somewhere down the road, you may end up getting hurt. And because she was so used to this physical specimen where she would just depend upon sex, just like you would depend upon sex. Now, when conflict comes, now you have someone that used to sex you down when you were healthy. Now she won't even give you a glass of water when you're sick. She used to sex you down when you're healthy, but now, you're sick and she abandons you. You lose your job, she abandons you.
Right.
The movie I often think about, I'm not really a movie person, but the movie I often think about is the movie John Q with Denzel Washington.
Where his boy gets sick.
Yes. The bad part was not just, the worst part to me was not just when the boy got sick, but when his wife abandoned him.
Right. That's tough.
Not just physically, but emotionally. But if you blah, 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 that's when he snapped.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all have a breaking point. But in that breaking point, you want to make sure that you choose someone that won't test the waters. When you're at that point.
So they know, okay, hey, he's already had his limits. He's already got a lot thrown at him. Let me go ahead and, instead of tearing him down more, let me help building him up. That's the partner you need to try and find.
Yes. That's the kind that you need. But also on the same token, for the young ladies, for you to acknowledge, you know what? I may not be there. And for her to be mature enough to accept it, acknowledge it, and let him know, but even if she tell him it's his choice and vice versa, she might be the type that's not like John Q's mother.
Yeah.
She might be the go-to young lady, stand by her man, all that stuff. But you could be a stand by your man chick for a dude that don't even, like Martin Luther King said, he had a dream. Some people don't even have a plan.
Man.
You know.
What do you think about that as far as understanding each other's nature to help better ourselves?
Yes. I'll say this. A young lady wants love. But a guy don't want love, he wants respect.
Right, okay.
And so for us to be able to understand how this thing happened, look at the example of a human being speaking to a flower. The flower will grow because the flower is receiving what is needed. Now, for human beings, we need oxygen. We need to inhale oxygen. That gives us life. And when we receive oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide. But the flower survives or needs carbon dioxide. And what they do when it receives the carbon dioxide, it exhales oxygen. So for the flower and for the human being to live, there's an exchange. Well, we look at the human as a man and we look at the lady as a flower. If the man is able to exhale carbon dioxide and the young lady, which is the flower, she's able to inhale that carbon dioxide, which is her love. She can be able to receive the love, but if she were able to receive the love, she can exhale respect.
Oh, wow.
So the lady is exhaling respect, but she's receiving love. But the other part we have to realize is if that man is unable to exhale carbon dioxide properly, it would be depriving her of the love that she needs for survival.
Okay.
So she has to be able to understand, you know what? He's able to give it, but is he able or is he qualified to give me the amount that is needed for my lungs?
Right.
The lungs being my heart. So if he's unable to give it, then ask God to help you be able to receive someone that's able to give the amount, because not everybody is able to give the amount that you may have. Some may need more than others. But for you to be able to get what you need, in other words, there's a custom amount that you need, and there are a custom amount that others be able to give off. Can you receive the person that's giving you what you need? If you can't receive them, then allow that person to go to someone that they can be able to be better suited for.
Right.
But we have to be mature enough for that. And also for the young lady, for how your question was, for her to understand the importance of choosing. Okay. Now, I will say this. I don't remember if I said this earlier or not, but we have to understand you can't make somebody become somebody that they're not. I know there's an old saying, and somebody put in a book, but you know, a man would change for the right woman. It ain't a man's responsibility to change for a woman, or it's not a responsibility for a woman to change for a man.
Okay.
It's their responsibility to change for themselves, but most importantly, to change for God. And one thing we always tell the young ladies, you can't, I was mentioning earlier, you can't make a boy to be a man, but also you cannot be somebody, parent and wife or girlfriend at the same time. It's so many young ladies, they know that they're in a bad relationship, but they choosing to stay in because they look at they have invested so much time.
Right.
I don't care how many hours I put money in my pocket. If my pocket has a hole in it, right, I would not be able to get anything beneficial to what I had already invested.
Right.
And so young ladies have to understand, if you are in a relationship and you know you're happy or not, you already know that, leaving sex out of the way, you already know if you're happy or not. Ask yourself, did you wait all your life for a love like this? And if you can say no, then you have to accept you're in the wrong relationship and leave immediately. Don't, I'm gonna give him another chance, and no, you're fooling yourself. You're wasting your time.
Okay, now I think there's a lot of different women out there, and what you said is excellent. But now there might be a young lady out there who says, "Oh yeah, okay, cool. I'm gonna tell him no, and then I'm gonna tell the one that I find a month from now no, and I'm gonna set such a criteria that when they're not meeting it, they're gone. Okay, so now you've got two sides of it, right? Because you do have the young lady that, she's doing all the right things, but then you might have another young lady where she may not realize her expectations
maybe
are just extreme, and also understanding. And me personally, I like to always say, I don't know about you, Esteban, but I like to say all the time, it's never going to be perfect. Okay. We've got to be able to weather the storm and keep going. Yeah. Not. So I think it's such a difficult line for a woman to say, Brother Prater said, leave you. He said, you a hole in my pocket.
Yeah.
You holding me back. Yeah. You a hole in my pocket. You got to get rid of this joker.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times people always have that extra strategy or going into a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So many people, they already have a plan B going into a relationship. If you feel like you have to have a plan B, it ain't nothing wrong with them, it's something wrong with you.
Right.
And so the first thing you have to ask yourself, first of all, are you healed? Are you healed from any hurt, not just from a relationship, from a past boyfriend or past husband, but also any type of hurt that you've experienced in the past? Because a lot of times when a person is hurt, the first thing they do, they either clamp up or they may try to hurt someone that resembles someone that hurted them.
So it has similar traits and stuff like that. Okay.
Yes. Look here, you were walking down the street, minding your business, just got out the house, but all of a sudden, let's just say you got stopped by the police because you fit the description. And you saying, I didn't do anything. No, but you fit the description, even though there's a witness that said that wasn't you, because they saw where you came from. Same thing pertaining to a relationship. Sometimes some people have put out their emotional polices to go and apprehend an innocent victim, because you look like the one that hurt. You look like my baby dad.
I get you in trouble.
You act just like my ex-husband. Yeah, but you know what? That was him. That wasn't me. Look, I came to give you flowers just because, even though he gave you flowers because he would hide some dirt. But not just accept me, but accept the flowers that I'm presenting to you, because they come with clean hands, innocent hands.
Right.
And,
so, go ahead.
I was just going to say, with that being said, and I think society also has a lot to do with the way, relationships are being built or presented. And I was going to say, with the way the world's going now and today, do you think it's, possible to have a successful marriage and a relationship, even though the world preaches, you be independent.
Individualism.
Look out for yourself. Like you said, have those exit strategies. Do you think it's possible?
It's very possible. Like I always say, we never can leave God out of the equation. I always go by Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, which means all these things shall chase you down. So in other words, when you are looking for, well, first I'm gonna say this. A young lady can never be in a relationship or a marriage until she receives. Now, a guy don't receive, a guy ask. That's why a guy asks for her hand in marriage. That's why a guy, would you be my lady? We talking about traditionally, we talking about chivalry.
Yeah.
We talking about old school. I don't know what this. Yeah, tradition. I don't know about this new age with say my girl proposed to me and I said yeah. No, we always go by what God said. The Bible said the man that found the wife found a good thing. Right. But with the way things are today, society has an agenda to tear up relationship. Just point blank, tear up relationship. You see on, not just on TV show, but you even see on cartoons where it used to be growing up, the men were the leaders, the men were the dominant ones, the men were the protectors. Now you seeing where the fathers are feminine. The fathers are being ran over, not just by the wife, but by the kids.
The job will run him over too. He can't control nothing. He's just lost everything.
There's a show that my son used to watch, a cartoon called Johnny Test. In Johnny Test, the roles were reversed. Nothing wrong with, there might have been a stay-at-home father, whatever, that the wife was making money. That's one thing. But you look at the tone of their father, he was being pushed over, all that stuff. And it's not just that show, but it was so many shows that it was subconsciously putting in our minds.
That idea.
Yeah, the idea of running over a man, but society planting a seed of women overrunning men. Right. Men emotionally, financially, spiritually. So now, even though society said that, deep within our heart, we know what we want. Deep within our heart, a young lady, I don't care how rough exterior that she has, a young lady want to be loved, want a young man, if we can prove and earn her trust, she wants to be loved. She want to be pampered. She want to be secured. And a lot of time that mask is up because she's uncertain if you're going to abandon her. She had her father to abandon her. Her brothers did not give her or validate her. Her mother was too busy working 4 or 5 jobs. So she had to learn from what she saw on TV. She had to learn from her pain, her pain or her past relationship, what people said about her. It defined her instead of her family, her roots, her village refining her or defining her. So now you're dealing with a young lady who, like I said, have this rough exterior, and it's scary for her to give her heart because now she feels secure. But that guy, if he understands how she is, we have to understand, first of all, trust does have to be earned. But if this is someone that you choose, if this is someone that God will lead you, hey, look here, don't abandon her. Make sure that it's God-led and not your emotions-led, because a lot of times we end up trying to make something that was not me.
That led me to a good question that I wanted to ask real quick, Michael. And I wanted to say, right there, where would you say the success point for a relationship for people to be moving in? Where do you think that would fall into play right there?
Ultimately, and it's bypassing marriage. Ultimately, we always tell people, go, as far as men, go into the mindset of not choosing a girlfriend, but choosing a wife. When you go in with the mindset of choosing a wife, you understand, like I was saying earlier, you understand you have to look past the sex, because sex not going to pay no bills. And especially if you have a vision, especially if you have a vision of going somewhere in life, doing something, you need someone that's going to compliment you, build you up, because a lot of times, us as men, we already being beat up on society, by society, beating up on the job, sometimes even beat up within our own family. Sometimes because of we being beaten up, even by our growing up. Our fathers, you know, he may not have been there. Our mothers may have ridiculed us because we resemble our father.
That's true.
You know,
you're in trouble if you look like him.
Right? Or vice versa.
You're in trouble if you look like him.
Vice versa. Your daddy might have got on you because you look just like your mama. You know, or you have traits like your mama. So either way, so you had that growing up.
Right.
So in spite of all that, and like I said, for the men, make sure that you heal from that, and also being able to forgive. Remind me, I'm gonna bring up, well, I'll bring it up now. Being able to forgive, because if we don't, let's just say if our father has wronged us, or if our father has abandoned our mother, and we holding no resentment with our father, if we don't allow that forgiveness to come into our hearts, then what happens? We end up becoming who we hate.
Yeah. Oh, that is true.
We hate our father because he abandoned me and my mama, but because of me not allowing that forgiveness to come in, then what happened? I end up getting into a relationship, and I end up leaving my wife and my 3 kids. And I hated my dad because he just left my mom and her one son or one child. Right. In other words, we not only become who we hate, but we become worse than who we hated.
Yeah, that's true. We keep the vicious cycle going.
Yeah. That we call it generational curse and everything. So even though those things will come up, even we see people who we have seen growing up and we look up to them and now they got a divorce. Is it possible to still have a successful marriage? Yes. The main thing we always tell people, not only being able to do things God's way, but choose God's way. Because God not going to tell you who to choose, but he'll show you how to choose. Ooh, and so if we accept, you know what? We got to examine. We got to do the homework. After we do the homework, also asking God through prayer. I always believe in fasting and praying, but also to discern. Because when we discern, God will show us the ending from the very beginning.
So you'll be able to identify.
Yes. Yeah. Being able to see, not only does she fit your purpose, but if she fits your purpose and God is letting you know, and you know, hey, green light, green light, green light, green light. Not only does she fit your purpose, you fit and complement hers too. You don't just make her abandon hers. What you do, yours will flourish, but also hers will flourish too, as not just in a marriage or in a relationship, but also individually. There's a couple success, and then there's an individual success. You know, so I look at it just like wrestling. Wrestling, we look at tag team, the Road Warriors. They were great tag team partners, but when you look at them individually, they were great single individual wrestlers. So when you get two successful people together, then you see things going, you see things flowing. You know, so we always think about in the Bible where it says, if one could put 1,000 to flight, two could put 10,000 to flight. The spiritual agreement that happens, the results that happen when there's a spiritual agreement, not only pertain to the church, but also the real church within the home.
So now there's a lot of women right now at home. They've got their secret weapon, and that secret weapon is a book, a men's book 101. And they're probably listening to us right now. And if a woman doesn't agree with what you're saying, she's already kind of tuned out, right? Especially if you're saying something that kind of attacks her in some kind of way. But then you may go to a young lady's house one day and, you know, you'll see a book by somebody and it's about men 101, how to get him to do this. What does it mean when he does that? Me personally, I kind of get offended when I see books like that. Yeah. Simply because I kind of feel like, and I'll be honest, I've never read a book like that. I've never even glanced at it. But whenever I see the title, I'm like, this book is supposed to be about me. Right. And then I say, well, how can these books generalize or identify what your specific issue is when this man comes from a different background than you? He has a different philosophy than what's in that book. How do you find that man in this book when that man looks and he goes, well, and if he reads a page, he goes, well, that does not, I did that, but that's not what that means. Yeah. This is not, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's somebody's kind of like, how does a book, you know, you're trying to get this book to tell on me, but I'm like, there's three men up here. And
how's that book supposed to represent all three of us?
Right.
And we all come from different backgrounds.
Yeah. Different situations, different mindsets, different goals.
Culture.
And also habits.
Yeah.
I have a tendency of doing a particular thing. You have a tendency of doing a particular thing. So I get shocked whenever I'm looking at this book. Like, so this book is supposed to be the one killer hitter to just
identify all men
and get the man to do whatever you want, or to find the man and this. And I'm just like, I don't know about this.
I'm glad you brought that up, because a secular book is going to make you look at the other person. Right. But a godly book gonna make you look at yourself.
Okay, I like that. That's nice.
That's something we see. You can't, like I always say, you can't change other people.
Right.
But you have to look at yourself, and that's what the Bible does. The Bible is a mirror. It's not a window.
Ooh.
What did he just say?
The Bible is a mirror, not a window.
Right.
I like that.
The Bible gonna make you see yourself.
All right.
Ooh.
But a secular book will make you look at other people.
Yeah.
And deny the healing that you need for you to be able to be qualified for the one that God has for you. But also, let's be honest, for those young ladies that are watching, I want you to remember this. You are like a train station. The train station don't relocate. The train comes to the train station.
Wow.
But also the key thing is the train station stop the one that's assigned for them to come into.
Oh, wow.
But if by chance that train station does not, or these train does not have the same symbol as the train station makes sure that the train keep on going because it may be stopping the progress of the one that's meant for them to stop.
That's awesome.
It's the train responsibility to go to the train station.
Oh, wow.
We as men, we need to go to our wife, go to our potential wife, go to our, if you want to say prospect, not subject, but go to our prospect to say, you know what? God, like I said, hold up before God, examine her with the word of God, not examine her through what your homeboys who've been married 4 or 5 times, who still playing the field, nothing like that.
Right.
We as mature men have to look with our spiritual eyes because we're choosing someone for our purpose. See, in relationships, there's an assignment. Life has an assignment. There's a purpose. And so just like life has a purpose, then we have to understand marriage or dating or courtship has a purpose. God has blessed me to be able to be at this particular point. God has blessed each and every one of us to be at this particular point. But understanding that we can only go so far in our singleness. But the rest of our journey will be taken with our spouse. And so we have to choose wise based upon who God has made us and the purpose of the assignment that God has made for us. There's a different assignment that God has for me versus someone that is single with no children.
That's true.
A young lady has to be understanding, even though I don't have a small baby, I have a 14-year-old son. But even me having a son, I have to understand, and this is not knocking his mother, great mother and everything, but I have to look at who I'm bringing to the table to see will she compliment to even showing him what type of young lady that he may need as a wife. So, or even, partnering with my son's mother to be the example. But if I did not have a son, that would not be the equation. That's why, even growing up, I always called my son my bodyguard. I always call him my bodyguard because God was letting me know that he's my accountability partner. He's holding me responsible for the decisions that I make because it affects him. And that caught my attention. So with that, that made me see that, first of all, there is possibility for us to have a successful marriage, a successful courtship. But like I said, even with that courtship, leaving sex out of it so I can know the real person, know in a deeper sense. Because like I said, sometimes, I'm being honest with you, even before I got delivered, there were times that I have had sex outside of marriage and all this stuff. But even when I thought that, oh yeah, everything gonna be great, even when the relationship was not going good, but I had sex with them thinking that sex was going to cover up that imperfection within a relationship. After the sex, I still felt empty.
Of course.
Even after that sex, as a guy, I still felt, I felt, but she don't understand me or whatever. But see, I was trying to mask that sex. And she was trying, everything gonna be all right and blah, blah, blah. But then come to find out, I was realizing when I left sex out of it, I was realizing I was learning the real her. Because knowing the real person is more than just what you can see physically, but most importantly, what you can not see spiritually, or what you cannot see physically, but you see it in the spirit. In other words, when you start seeing within the spirit, it blinds you from the natural, from the physical. So if you look beyond the physical, God will reveal the spiritual, on the spiritual, who a person really is, how a person really is. They're a spirit. A lot of people say, well, I ran across that person, they had a bad aura, or I just didn't feel right. That's that person's spirit. And so a lot of times, I'm gonna have to throw this out there, but a lot of times us as men, and we can understand our importance, we won't allow ourselves to be contaminated with young ladies that are not for us. A lot of times us as men, they call it, some young ladies, they call men being dogs and all that stuff. And a lot of time men, if you understood your value, your importance of your seed, you wouldn't be giving your seed to all these different type of females. We have to understand the importance of man. Man has a purpose. Man has a purpose given from God. Not even though you might have came from a broken home, even though you might have came from an abandoned relationship, or even rape. You might have came from rape or whatever. But the key thing, regardless of how you got here, you came here with an assignment. You didn't choose the way you came in, but in spite of what the devil meant for evil, God can turn it for your good. And, your mother could have aborted you, but you still came. And because you're here, there's a purpose and an assignment for you. But you have to understand, not valuing your seed, your sex organ, it pollutes your judgment. If you don't understand it, you'll never receive, you never obtain the purpose and plan God has for you, because you don't know who you are. And when you don't know who you are, you end up contaminating other people who are trying to become someone that they're not. A lot of times we're so used to having people to be our spokesperson or whatever, but God wants us to be able to look at something that really tugs on your heart. You do your homework pertaining to the thing that you're frustrated about, that you're tired of. You do your homework on that. A lot of times, what you're tired of and what you went through, that's actually part of your assignment, part of your purpose. Because just like Prince was, basketball player. Prince loved instruments and all that stuff, But even though he loved basketball, but he's, if you want to say, known to be a musician, known to be a prolific writer, a musician, all these things, photographer, all these other things. But when you look at it, what you get tired of, also the way you want to express yourself. Those are the key things that we'll look at, that will help us to understand our purpose, help us to be able to look at and understand who we are. Because a lot of times when we sit back and start doing a self-evaluation of not only what we love, but being realistic. Some people, they love to sing, but they can't sing. That's not their niche. But you look at what you look forward to doing, even if you don't get paid. My uncle said this years ago, and it struck me. My uncle is he's Logan Photography. He's the owner and the photographer of Logan Photography, Aaron Logan. He said this to my little brother and I. He said he looked forward to waking up every morning. He don't need no alarm clock. He got a job that he loved doing what he likes to do. He loves doing what he does. It's not a job
for him.
But also, thank you for saying it, because this is what caught my attention. First of all, when we look at Adam, God did not give Adam a job. Mm-hmm. God gave Adam work. Mm-hmm. And so when we look at work, the word work in its original language means source from God, source or energy from God. Mm. So whatever purpose and plan God has for us is something that he has already embedded in us. Mm-hmm. And it gives you life. It work that agitate the mess out of us and all that stuff. And sometimes that's a good thing, mm-hmm. because a lot of times when we are complacent on our job, it's letting us know we need to get hungrier on our work.
Yeah, I agree.
I put in 8 hours or 9 hours at my job, but when I get off the clock, I make sure that I invest the same, if not more, on my work. Mm-hmm. My work outside of my job.
Okay, so now bringing up the sheriff's department and working in law enforcement, how is it the situation for a black man working in law enforcement? What are some of the things that he or she may be subject to on both sides? It's really tricky, especially right now with the way everything is. There's a really negative hot light on all law enforcement. But then, if you're sitting in here, and you are a Hispanic or you're a black male or female, mm-hmm. and you're in law enforcement, are you torn between two places? And then also, you're in the streets where you come from, and they know you from whatever area you're from, and they see you got your uniform on, and they're looking like, wait a minute, man, 5-0.
Yeah.
And at the same time, this is what you're passionate about, mm-hmm. and you want to serve your community. What are some of the things? Because I feel like that's a hidden area that a lot of people don't really talk about. Because it may not affect you.
Right.
But when you're that person, it's like, man, there's no voice for us. There's nothing here for us. I fit both here. What do I do?
I'm glad you asked that, because number one, this also even revealing our purpose, which is another thing. Before I forget, make sure when we go to bed, make sure that we go to bed with a pen and paper beside us. Sometimes we have to write. Sometimes even we have to record ourselves when we first wake up. Right. Because God may be speaking to us while we sleep to let us know a purpose and plan. Mm-hmm. So even with that, being on both sides, being a black man in law enforcement in this climate, mm-hmm. One of the things I realize right now, if we go to, not all, but when we go to some white neighborhoods, they don't see the uniform. They see my black face. But when I go to some of my black neighborhoods, they don't see my black face. They see my uniform.
They see your uniform.
So right now, a lot of them, they say, oh man, I've had some white people to come to me, hey, appreciate your service, and blah, blah, blah. Being honest with you, a lot of times I get more love from my white community than my black community. Right. And it was even before this situation that we're facing right now, mm-hmm. But the main thing, what I tell the black people who may look down upon me because I work in law enforcement, oh man, you got that clue suit on. They say that you got that clue suit on. Well, number one, I need this uniform on. And the reason why is because, number one, it's helping me to see behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I may not have been in jail, so to speak, but I'm behind the scenes to see not just what's going on behind the jail, but now I could be an influence for change. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, it's just like some people that may say, well, you don't understand, or, I wouldn't work for no law enforcement. I wouldn't work no law enforcement or whatever like that, But on the other hand, how are you going to bring change? Mm-hmm. You don't bring change from the outside. You bring change from within. Also, years ago, I was doing a visitation at the West Tower. And it was packed, and this lady came up to me and said, how you gonna work up here, and you supposed to be a black man, you supposed to be a man of God and all that stuff, you just a bad example. She didn't know me, and I ain't gonna lie, I thank God she caught me when I was not cursing. And right before I was getting ready to say something, it was like God spoke and said, ma'am, who would you rather have to go watch your son? Someone that would at least be an influence and encouragement to him, or someone that would beat the mess out of him?
Right.
And when I said that to her, it was like everything just got quiet.
She didn't have an argument for that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so us as men, me being a black man, I have to tell my black people, first and foremost, you're needed in law enforcement. You're needed. Don't run from it. You're needed in law enforcement. You know, this is your birthright. You know, we regardless of, you know, what happened in the past, anything like that, we are born free. Our ancestors have went through a great deal for us to even be able to enjoy a day's worth of freedom that we're experiencing right now.
Right.
And don't allow your ancestors, my ancestors, death to be in vain. So as a black man in law enforcement, not only am I seeing the opportunity to be aware of what's going on behind closed doors. And I ain't gonna lie, I've been there. Matter of fact, this coming January, it'll be 27 years.
Wow.
I've even have seen, I'll just say it, I've been mistreated, not just by some black staff, but even some white staff. You know, I've had some because of the position that I have. The first thing they see, a young black man, he got that position. Oh, well, he ain't no good, or he must be stealing some of the product. I've been accused of so many things. But the thing was, I had to learn, don't respond to their foolishness. Sometimes just watch from afar. Don't respond. When you don't respond, then you actually keep your spiritual senses open for the bigger plan that God has for you. So with being in law enforcement, I've heard, I've been called the N-word. There have been staff members that have been saying the N-word even towards myself or towards my coworkers that they felt like nobody heard. You know, but also this is an opportunity for me to be an example to the black young men to say, you know what? We have to go into not just trying to promote or try to boycott or try to protest to make change. No, we have to be in place to create change. It may be for us to be the ones to bring up policies. I mean, you know,
change policies. They can change if more of the culture was able to get into law enforcement. They can change policies.
Yeah, change politics, and also get it into politics.
Politics, exactly.
And right now, it seems like it's politics. But for us to be able to, and don't get me wrong, I know there have been people that have been protesting and everything, but this way I see it. We're protesting to people for them to bring change on our behalf. And we're protesting to people who may not even look like us. Well, who don't look like us. But how about we start putting people in place that look like us for us to be able to talk to, so that way they at least they understand. But we up here, I'm not gonna do that. But you begging people who don't even care about you, who don't look like you asking them to look at your best interest. Well, you're not even showing an effort that you even care about your interests.
What would you say the key is to getting that good communication with God?
I always look at it like this. Always pray in the morning before I go to work. God, prepare me for the assignment that you have for me. Now, there are some things that God may have on schedule that he has put in paper for you to go through. On the other hand, there are some things that we end up putting ourselves into. But even in the midst of that, always say, you know, God, what I make crooked, you make straight, you know. And so with the assignment of being up there on the job, I always look at whatever I do, it's an assignment. It's a ministry. And so with that idea, God, it ain't my responsibility to figure out how it's going to work out or what I need to say or what I need to do. It's your responsibility. I mean, we have to really lean on God like never before.
Jesus, take the wheel for real.
Yes. You know, give him the wheel, but we stay off the accelerator.
Got you. Take my foot off the gas.
Yes. You let him go ahead and get in the driver's seat. You know, sometimes it's even best for us to get off the front row and get into the back seat, because a lot of times when you're in a car with somebody used to driving, you know, you start imagine, you look at no, just go in the back, So with being up there on the job, I have to pray, and I ain't gonna lie, there are many times I have to rehearse what I'm gonna verbally say, especially when I'm in the heat of the moment. Mm-hmm. I know I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm not a scary person, but the person I fear the most is me. Because right. I know my potential. I know I can get ignorant. Mm-hmm. I know I can, yeah. And people see the exterior now. People see the minister. People see, this person, that person, who I am. But I know where the old Peter buried at. Mm-hmm. I know the old Peter. I know the old Peter where he buried it, right. The Peter that carried the switchblade that was in the discipleship, I know where he is, and I can dig it up, But I'm like, God, you know what? God, I need your help. So when I deal with certain people at work, regardless if it's the inmates or the staff, what I always ask God is, God, kick in that discernment for me to see the unseen. I look at it as whenever something happens, there's an opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's God's responsibility in that opportunity for him to be glorified. Even though it's through that situation, but it's not in my power, it's his. So I always give him the responsibility. Mm-hmm. And even just in the small, minute things, even asking God, God, what do I need to wear today? Some people, that's smart. No, but what that does, that actually increases your faith, and also it increases your awareness of God's presence and your awareness of your need for him.
We can get into, so we're definitely going to have you back. But before we let you go here, because I know you don't have so much time, and I know everybody wants Brother Prater to come to their podcast. So we're blessed that you would even come out here for us. A few years ago, I actually read a book that I got that you have put together on fatherhood. And I know you got one with us today. I want to definitely make sure that our viewers here get a chance to hear what you got, because that first book was dynamite, especially for fathers. Man, I love that book. And I remember reading that book, and someone else that I know came to me and looked at the book. He said, that's Brother Prater book. I got that book. So you're doing right whenever somebody looks at the book and kind of smiles. You done with that book? And it was just, it took me such a long time to read, because it was more like a study guide. I couldn't just, it wasn't a romance novel. It was, okay, I need to go back and read that. And then something would happen. Mm-hmm. Right. Something would happen in my life. And I would think, man, this guy said this in the book. And I would go back and I would see, okay, wow. So not that it's like the Woman's Man 101 book, but it was very much like the Bible. They talk about the Bible's pregnant. I kept finding stuff in that book. And it was such an amazing book. So I know you have another one today that I haven't picked up yet, but I definitely would love you to go into your new stuff, your new product that you have.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, the first book was called A Few Good Men, A Path to Godly Fatherhood. And what God began to show me was, I wrote it while I was at work. And God showed me, look at my environment. If I want the world to change, I first must start with men. And a lot of times, just like God made Adam first. Mm-hmm. And in order for change to happen, we gotta, and fix problems, we gotta first start with man. Right. And man pertaining to him being a father, him being a son, all these dynamics. And it's not just for men, but also for ladies too, because a lot of times it may bring up even why or even how sometimes young ladies choose the wrong one, choose the wrong man and everything. And also for guys choosing the wrong young lady, and also for guys who may have done things, whatever, so I wanted to make sure to really talk to, starting with the men, but also on the same token, let there be healing to the young ladies. Mm-hmm. We as men, we have mistreated young ladies, not just in relationship, but even in raising them. We might have treated our daughters worse than our son. We praise our sons because he might have lost his virginity when he was 16 and 17 and everything. Right. On the other hand, when your daughter been deprived of the father, and she ended up getting pregnant at 14, now you want to crucify her.
Yeah.
You know, so like I said, I wanted to talk to the men and the ladies. Now, the book that I have now, this is called, I forgot what it's called. I'm sorry. Yeah. The girl who was her brother's keeper.
That's what happens when you have a lot of product. You gotta let us catch up.
Yeah, you know, this book was actually dedicated to my sister. I lost my sister last year, March 3rd of 2019, due to domestic violence.
Oh my goodness!
And her and I were extremely close. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to not just allow this to be therapeutic for me to just talk about and reflect upon my sister, but what God was showing me was just like how I was saying about, you know, purpose. In the midst of my grief, God was telling me, share with the people about your relationship with your sister. Right. Little did I know that it was actually a ministering tool, because a lot of time, many people, they don't look at the relationship within siblings. A lot of time we'll focus on, you know, trying to find a spouse, trying to find a girlfriend or whatever like that, and try to get that relationship, but we abandon the relationship within siblings. And so with my sister and I just began to want to share with people that you can have a relationship where there could be not just conflict, but forgiveness, and also for you to be able to, as a man, being an example even to my sister, and also being able to even accept criticism within families. You know, and so that's the way I was looking at it. And right now I'm actually writing a book that her and I would have done. It's about domestic violence and toxic relationships. Oh man! And that book is entitled "Hearing Silent Screams." Okay. How a lot of times we need to evaluate the relationships that we're in, for its courtship or whatever like that, right, and just look at it from a healthy perspective to see if it's a healthy relationship, if it's not, you know, and also for you to be able to be healed from the residues of hurts. Not just women. We always talk about, you know, women need to be healed, yeah, but guys need to be healed too.
That is correct.
And last but not least, I'll say this: a lot of time, us as men, we acknowledge our mistakes, but we want to acknowledge our hurts.
So true.
Yeah. So true. With that, for us to be able to be healed, for us to be the men and ladies that God called for us to be.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Brother Prater, I wanted to, you have such great information. I enjoyed having you on the show and everything like that. For our viewers, where could they find you? Do you have any social media pages, maybe websites, anything like that? Go ahead, do a little shout out. Let everybody know where we can contact you.
Okay. Right now, I'm Brother Prater. I am on Facebook. That's my actual name, Brother, Brother, Prater, Prater. I'm on Facebook, YouTube. Also, I do have a website, brotherprater.com. And there are some people who may not like being on social media or Facebook or whatever. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to make sure I created my website for those who may want to get in contact with me. I have my daily devotions that I post every day in videos that I post them as well. And I also have a store where you can purchase my first or second book, or and just get in contact with me. And also for those who may want to video chat with me, I have different platforms on my website for those who may get in contact with me. But most importantly, I always want to make sure that we not only just get in contact, but most importantly, we get in contact with God. And so for us to be able to just be able to be of some help for and to one another.
Awesome. All right. And I think that concludes our episode of Lion Impact Podcast. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next time.